When people make fun of gacha games, they typically tend to reference Raid Shadow Legends, partly due to how bad they claim the game is, and partly due to all the content creators that shill out sponsored content for it, even though the Raid team publicly claim that they do not sponsor content creators. These creators merely enjoy their game enough for them to cover it willingly, even on non-gaming related YouTube channels. Right. Regardless, having a different opinion to someone online is always going to leave you open for criticism and personal attacks. This game is good will leave you open to the anger from people that believe the game is horrible. This game is bad will leave you open to the anger from people that believe the game is fantastic. The purpose of the Worst Gacha Ever series is not solely to criticize a game, nor is it to praise it unconditionally. Rather, this video series exists as a means with which to both critique and to complement various facets of a gacha game that I experienced over a set period of time, sometimes days, sometimes months. Hey, my name is Stix and welcome back to another episode of Worst Gacha Ever. If you enjoyed this series, make sure to like the video, leave a comment, subscribe to the channel, hit that little bell notification because YouTube told me that if you don't, well, you don't get the last cookie in the cookie jar. Oh, and make sure to check out the last episode of this series at the end of the video. Before we go any further, I just want to take a moment here to thank all of the absolute chads and chadettes that support this channel via Patreon. You're all freaking legends. Seriously, each and every single one of you. I would offer to give each of you a kiss, but I suffer from severe intimacy issues. Additionally, if you want to stay up to date with all the latest MMO, gacha, and gaming news, take a second here to follow Mrs. Stix and I over on Twitter. We tweet daily. Now let me preface this by stating that I understand why you get notifications of promotions, events, and deals in gacha games. They need to attempt to push sales to increase their earnings. Completely reasonable. But when they are plastered all over your screen and are set to pop up every X number of minutes, yeah, that is unacceptable. Upon logging in, you're immediately spammed with windows to close. You click the tavern to level your heroes a little, maybe click the portal to summon some additional heroes, which are bound to be horrible 1-stars that are completely useless outside of being fodder to promote your more powerful characters. And upon leaving that screen, you're hit with more pop-ups telling you, we have a special deal going on right now, the deal that you closed just before entering the tavern. Are you sure you don't want to spend money on it? And this happens repetitiously, unrelentingly. Every time you go back to your base, you're just overwhelmed with pop-up windows trying to milk you for every cent they can. And don't get me started on how much they try and milk you. I have played 15 gacha games for this channel now, closer to 20 if I count the ones that I'm still currently in the process of recording. And this is the first one that has limited the number of times that I can auto-complete stages by anything other than available stamina. Typically, if you need to grind XP or money or resources, so long as you have sufficient stamina, you're fully capable of grinding endlessly, obtaining every available resource you need to allow for you to progress through the game at your own pace. This is not the case in Raid though. Oh, no. Instead, in Raid you have a hard cap of 30 auto clears that you can run per day, after which you're forced to repeat every battle manually. This is to promote their raid cards, both the silver and the gold, which not only provide a very beneficial XP and monetary boost for maps, but also add an additional 70 auto clear attempts for you. Trust me, as a new player who got stuck on chapter 5 or 6 because enemies were just too powerful for my horrible 3-star heroes to overcome, the 100 auto clears allows for you to not only max out your roster, but also level lower tier heroes to use as materials to advance your main heroes, allowing progress to be made that much faster. Otherwise, the game would require your undivided attention for otherwise arduous activities. The game itself has a variety of different game modes to participate in: the campaign, dungeons, faction wars, arena, clan bosses, and Doom Tower. I made it to my mid-20s by the time I gave up on the game, which is honestly more than you could say for most people I've talked to about Raid. This meant that the Doom Tower was locked for me, as were certain other features, which You know what, let me just touch on that real briefly. This might come off as me nitpicking a little bit here, but when upgrading your gear, you're required to manually watch the progress bar fill up and cycle through each available level. That is fine, it's not really an issue. However, upon hitting level 40, you gain the ability to bypass the animation lock altogether. If you're going to allow for players to bypass the upgrade animation, why not just allow all of us to bypass it by default? I feel like this is completely useless and stretches out the time that we spend upgrading that could otherwise be spent playing the game, especially when you need to upgrade 8 items per hero and you repeatedly fail at +6 and +7. But back to gameplay, the bulk of the game happens both in the campaign and dungeons. The campaign is what you'd expect. There are 12 chapters as of this video. Each chapter has 7 separate missions featuring its own story and corresponding enemies, consisting of 3 waves each. And finally, in mission 7, culminating in a final boss battle, completing the chapter and leading into the next. The chapters start off relatively easy, and then after several chapters have a significant spike in difficulty, requiring you rework all of your heroes, upgrade to lengths that you've never had to before, and grind repetitiously for days if you don't have one of the raid cards. Dungeons are, well, more of the same. Several instances that each offer a specific type of reward with a set number of levels per instance, each battle getting progressively more difficult and increasing the rarity of the reward. I didn't bother with the faction wars because my faction was trash, but it was the only one that would accept me. Arenas were what they always seem to be in mobile games. You select your team, you go up against another player's team, and then you just let the game autoplay for you. Speaking of autoplay, the entire game is autoplay. Now, I don't really find that to be too much of an issue, if I'm gonna be honest, as even when given the option of playing a game manually like in Azure Lane, I tend to opt to let it play for me. Certain games require manual play, other games don't. This is one of those instances where autoplay is necessary, but I have never been of the opinion that PvP should have any type of autoplay present. Sure, I don't need to use it, but the enemy players are automatically controlled, so what's the point, you know? Raids were, well, not horrible, but they honestly felt pretty bad. In the week of playing, I managed one single epic. Regardless, there are 4 types of shards available: Mystery, Ancient, Void, and Sacred. Mystery shards had a 74.2% chance of 1-star heroes, a 24.4% chance of 2-star, and a 1.4% chance of 3-star. Ancient shards had a 91.5% chance of 3-star heroes, an 8% chance of 4-star, and a 0.5% chance of 5-star. Void shards had an 83% chance of 3-star heroes, 16% chance of 4-star, and 1% chance of 5-star. Legendary shards had a 94% chance of 4-star heroes and 6% chance of 5-star. There's a pity system in place that begins at 20 summons for Ancient and Void shards, having not pulled an epic, at 200 summons for Ancient and Void shards, having not pulled a legendary. Although the pity is not a guarantee, it's a percentage increase per failed attempt. As is evident on screen, after 200 summons without an epic, your chances increase by 2% each pull, with legendaries increasing by 5% respectively. Premium currency gems were incredibly difficult to come by, so difficult in fact that to actually use them I was required to spend money. Normally I would advise against that, but I wanted to cover this in a video and thus I guess it kinda canceled out the cost. Is there even a narrative in this game? There was a small bit of story before and after the completion of each chapter, but a few minutes of story in the 6 chapters that I played was pretty much nothing, not even worth mentioning. Overall, I had a pretty bad experience in Raid. I understand fully why creators shill for it. They pay an absolute fortune. But for what? An autoplay game with no strategy, a horrible cash shop, bad rates, barely any semblance of a story, a tacky pay-to-win abusive business model that spams you with advertisements every other minute? No thank you. I mean, not even the waifus or the husbandos look appealing. How is that even possible? Is Raid Shadow Legends the worst gacha game of 2022? You know what? It's pretty bad, legitimately bad, not even close to having any redeeming qualities, but I still believe that there are other worse ones out there. This has been the worst gacha game as part of this series though. Now, if you're looking for the previous episode in the Worst Gacha Ever series, you can find that via this video right here, or if you're looking for a list of confirmed gacha games coming this year, then this video over here.